Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome to this edition of History Loves Company. And we are outside in this beautiful weather today at the Marietta Citizens.
You could call it Citizens City.
Yeah, Citizens Cemetery.
So, yeah, we are...
What are we doing here, Krista?
Well, do we ever need a reason to explain why we're here?
This place is phenomenal. I mean, it's amazing. We spend way more time out here getting sidetracked from our actual purpose.
Yeah, totally. So we're out here today because it's Women's History Month. You know, March is Women's History Month, so we want to focus on somebody for Amy and I, and anybody who studies Marietta history. Like, this woman is very, very important.
Yes.
Her research is where we always start.
Oh, absolutely. I've flipped through. I mean, I'm on my second version of her book in my office because the first version was used so much it literally fell apart.
Yeah, you had a duct tape for a while.
Yeah, I had duct tape on it for a while. So this woman is an author, a historian.
She was a social worker. Suffragette.
Yes. Yeah. We're gonna learn a couple of things about her.
Yeah.
And did we name her? Did we give her a name?
Not yet.
Anybody want to guess? Sarah. Well, her full name is Sarah
Blackwell
Gober Temple. Otherwise known as Sadie Temple.
Sadie Temple. That's because we're on that name basis now. So we are actually in her family's plot. So I'm going to kind of show you guys around a little bit because you got to see it. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So it's got a little fence. It's actually right across from, that's the Clay Monument right there, Alexander Stevens Clay. So it's a little fence. You've got, let me walk around. I'm going to walk through here. Sorry, guys. I'm walking in between people, I promise. No, not yet. You've got her brother George. He's not buried here, as it says. But that's her brother George. Junior, always a junior. Father George, Judge. I call him Judge Gober. That's how we roll. Sorry about the little tree there getting in my way. Mother Alice Blackwell. If you guys know a lot about Marietta's history, that's a name you see a lot, along with the Mays. We would have started our recording sooner, but Amy got sidetracked about the Mays family.
Yes. So let's zoom in for a second on two names.
Okay.
Linda Catherine Mays.
Yeah.
And
let's see if we can see. I can get in. Let me get in.
Yeah,
yeah, there we go.
Athelina Elizabeth Mays. Okay. So those two women were first cousins. Their fathers came to Cobb County, I think it said in the 1830s.
Yeah, they were
early on.
Yeah.
And so they were first cousins, and their children grew up and fell in love and got married, and their children were George and Alice. George Gober and Alice Blackwell. They married and had Sarah. So,
and then Sarah's brother George and Sarah's sister Eileen, who's buried here. So let me show you that one too.
So we got a little bit of kissing cousins going on. It's all good. It's all good in the hood.
It's not unusual, as I said.
Unusual.
If royalty does it, anybody can. All right, so I'm going to walk in between.
Very true.
So what we have here, and you can see we got our paperwork, and we have Sarah's marker. We put her book on there. We figured, I think she wouldn't mind. It's her book. And actually, we'll show that one in a second. And then this is her husband, Mark Temple, right here. Sorry about the shadows. It's a little bit later in the afternoon. So yeah, here she is. Sarah, beloved wife of Mark, daughter of George and Alice. March 16th, 1891, January 21st, 1956. And you want to hold up that book?
Yes, I sure can.
So this is, you might not, it's a little hard to see, but it says first 100, there you go, first 100 years. So this one might look different from everybody else's, because this is a first edition.
Yes.
And you're probably wondering why I brought a first edition out here. The museum actually has 3 copies, so 1935. So I figured it was safe to bring one out. The other 2 are back in the museum. They're safe, don't worry.
Yes.
And what do we call this, Amy? It's got a special name.
It's the Red Whale. And it got that nickname because a young author, some of y'all may have heard of, named Margaret Mitchell, referred to this book in her research as the Red Whale because it was so big. So yes, Margaret Mitchell did use this book as part of her research while writing Gone with the Wind. So we do know that.
Yeah.
How close they were in friendship, I don't know. I'm not sure if they were friends or I'm sure they were aware of each other. Yeah. So this is the Red Whale version of the first 100 years.
So the other version, you guys, if you have it's a green copy. Cobb Landmark sells it. We don't actually have any for sale in the store right now.
Yeah.
But
it's the first thing we send people to when they're doing research. Really, we say start with the first 100 years because you're going to get such a really good in-depth history of the county that was done in 1936. And however, with the caveat that it's a really good white history of the county.
Yes.
There are some details on African Americans and their lives in Cobb County, but really comparatively very little when you compare it to the white history. There's a little bit on Native American history, not a whole lot, just a little bit. But basically, when Sarah decided, or when she was, I guess, they asked her to write the book, right?
So obviously my love of Law and Order never prepared me for the fact that grand juries could be convened to get somebody to write a book.
Ooh, interesting.
That's what it was. It was a grand jury.
Wow.
That was convened to have somebody write a history. And I think it was actually Guy Northcutt Sr. Who said, or somebody said, the judge's daughter, Sadie, she's really knowledgeable.
Yeah, she could do it.
And she could do it. And then, of course, her lineage is early.
That Northcutt would be who Northcutt Stadium is named after at Marietta High School.
Yep.
And then I also just want to throw in there, I don't know that there was a grand jury. I definitely don't think there was a grand jury involved when they asked Dr. Tom Scott to write the second, to write a volume 2, if you will, kind of to take you up to modern history. But there is, if you're looking for history up to 1935, this is the book you want to get. It's the first 100 years from 1830s to 1930s. And then Dr. Scott wrote another book, Cobb County and the Origins of the Suburban South.
Wow, I'm impressed you knew the whole
Cobb County History and the Origins of the Suburban South. And his book kind of takes you from about 1900 to 2000. So they kind of overlap a little bit. Both are just chock full of stories. And thankfully, we don't have to include him in a tour like this because he is still alive and well with us, and we love him dearly. He's a huge asset to the history of Cobb County. So, back to Sarah. So we start with her book anytime someone's doing some research, and then, you get some details from her book, and then we can go from there in research. You might find other little nuggets of information and say, oh, well, do you have other additional information on this store or additional information in your archives on this family or this event? And so that's...
I'm always curious to know what would happen if she said no to that grand jury. Do they, indict her for something?
I don't know. I mean...
I guess they would have found somebody else, but it's
somebody else, yeah. Well, you can get into a little bit of the history of her because you found some new information about her, right?
Yeah, I thought Sadie and I knew each other, but obviously, I mean, you did too.
Yeah. Actually, I take that back. She was kind of a mystery because we obviously knew who she was and what she did in reference to this book, but the rest of her life, I was kind of like, what else did she do? Who was she? What were her interests? Did she have other jobs?
I knew, I think you knew, you and I both knew, okay, so, daughter of a judge, she's going to get some sort of education. We knew that.
Yeah.
So, she ended up going to Agnes Scott. And,
which is an all-girls school at that time?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you'll hold this for a second, let me grab my notes.
Yes, hold your notes.
I better, it's my whole file.
That's right. I'm going to turn it this way so the sun's not in our eyes as much.
So what's interesting about her is she does go to Agnes Scott. She is, she is let me put these on. Woo! She's an athlete. Did you know that?
Athlete?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
So she was a part of the field hockey club.
Nice.
Baseball club. Her position was left field.
Shut up.
I know. And she served as the co-editor-in-chief to the college annual. So
nice.
So she definitely was a lady who took the experience of college life to the fullest, which I love. And I do have a picture. Okay, guys, it's a little blown up, so it's sorry, it's windy.
Let me turn this around, and then you can hold it with 2 hands. How about?
2 hands.
Look at that. Look at that lovely lady.
Scott annual.
Wow.
So, like, she is in Agnes Scott in, like, right before World War I. And graduates.
So, in case you couldn't hear, she was in Agnes Scott right before World War I.
And then graduates. And then that's the period of time, I think, for you and I both, where it's like, what does she do from when she graduates college to coming back to Marietta?
Right.
Because, like, we knew, obviously, the book.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what did she do?
Sadie had her secrets.
She did.
But Google revealed them to me.
Nothing is a secret on the internet.
No. So, even if you were born and died well before the internet, there's no secrets.
Yes.
So somebody has done a biographical sketch of Sarah Blackwell Gober Temple. It's actually a woman named Nancy Alexander Simmons. This is for a project called Alexander Street through ProQuest, which is a knowledge-based
interesting. I'd never heard of that before.
So it's women and social movements, and she actually falls under the suffragette movement, which I was like, yeah, thank you. So it talks about her as a activist and social worker, goes into her life, but when after college, she volunteered at the Atlanta headquarters of the Associated Charities. But due to her efficiency, which I love that, she was soon offered a permanent position, and in 1915, she was appointed by Georgia's governor. I almost said back to top, but that's
not
to the 42nd annual meeting.
Which governor?
Whoever the Georgia governor in 1915 would that have been?
Was that Brown?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Joseph M?
Yeah, no.
No?
1915.
Okay.
Remember what happened in 1915?
I do.
It wasn't Joseph M. Dorsey.
Slayton. Governor Slayton. All
there
right.
we go.
Yep.
She went to the National Conference of Charities and So anyway, she gets moved in 1915 to the office in Jackson, Mississippi, which I've been to Jackson, Mississippi, and Sarah's name wasn't mentioned there, but I was doing other things. So, so she goes there and she starts to work with these charities, including the Equity League of Jackson. She works there and she helps with the suffrage movement in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm like,
what?
That's amazing!
That is amazing. And you got to also wonder, it makes me want to go back into some of our records and see if she was, writing home, maybe keeping in touch with some of the women here who were working for the vote, for the right to vote. I don't know.
So they were going to be a part of a parade at the opening of the state fair in Jackson, which is actually the time I was in Jackson, was during their state fair.
Oh!
So, 12 women were enlisted to participate and would carry a placard with the name of one of the states that already allowed women's suffrage. However, only 6 women showed up to participate in the parade. The women wore white dresses and yellow sashes and walked with a banner that said, "Women vote in 12 states, why not Mississippi?"
Why not?
Gober
really,
carried the banner along with a woman named Ella Biggs, and they were followed by another woman. So she was the banner carrier. I was like, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
I think we should recreate that.
I think we should, and we actually have an exhibit up right now from the Smithsonian that covers the suffrage movement in America, and it's a poster exhibit. But we do have some of our artifacts. We could put a yellow ribbon over our sash over our dress. Yeah.
So what ends up happening is she then gets moved to Louisiana because she does such a good job. She then goes to New York, and that's where she meets Mark, her husband. Who was working for the Associated Press.
It's a slick Yankee.
Yep. They marry in Marietta in 1927. They live in Forest Hills, that neighborhood over off of the Loop.
Yeah.
And they stay married until his death. But what she does here is she continues her social work. During World War II, she's very heavy in Red Cross. I think she was like vice president, something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
the local Red Cross. Yep, and they were active locally in rolling bandages. Weren't they doing that some? Or
it
maybe
was like
banning socks or
everything.
Yeah,
they had like five things. They had rolling bandages, doing socks, knitting, making food for workers. I mean, it's a whole slew of stuff.
Yeah.
So like here's this picture of her is not my favorite though.
Oh, that's a little.
Has a little face on,
yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah. Hey. She's a serious woman. She's got serious business to do.
She's got serious business.
We're not messing around with the vote,
No.
Or the research.
No. So So that's like a brief bio. She and Mark did not have any children.
Mm-hmm.
She did end up writing another book
Yes.
later called Georgia Journeys.
Georgia Journeys, yep.
And so
And it covers more of colonial Georgia.
Yeah,
Actually, it doesn't really cover any Cobb County history. It was co-written by another author. And
it's okay.
I know. It's okay. It was a man. But I believe she died in the middle of writing that. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so.
So
my hand's cramping up.
Oh, that's okay. It's hard. We don't have our stand with us today because we walked over here. So anyway, the book, all of the research in the book is wonderful.
Absolutely. But
what is inspiring us right now is the last, third, maybe? Fourth?
Yeah, maybe fourth, yeah.
Is her cemetery stuff. So here, you grab the book. I'll talk a minute. Her hand was hurting there. So her cemetery work is for me, the stuff of dreams. And so Amy was like, let's do that. And I went, what?
Me and my grand schemes. I'm like, hey, I got a great idea. Let's do this. And then Christa goes all Lucius Clay on me and becomes the logistics person. She's like, all right, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get from point A to point B?
Well, I think we've decided that y'all can't handle a week without us. So, because last year we did take a break.
Yes.
So, the plan is to have these videos pre-recorded.
Yes.
So instead of just us not having a theme to them, we decided let's take Sarah's journey.
Yes.
And 90 years later,
as much of it as we can,
find these cemeteries.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah.
And so if you want to just look quickly at this is what her cemetery list looks like. Show this page here.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna flip it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Flip it. And just take a look at this is kind of how it's laid out. Within the cemeteries, she put people alphabetically, so that's kind of how she labeled them within the cemeteries.
Well, ironically enough, this one she didn't actually get the names from.
Oh, what?
So if you read it, it says these names were collected by Mrs. A.B. Caldwell of Log Cabin. I'll explain who she is later when we go to Collins Springs.
Okay.
But so
yes.
yeah.
So that's where we're going to start is Collins Springs Cemetery. But the problem and the fun of all of this is going to be...
That was the part she was excited about. I wasn't so excited about that.
Let's see. Okay, let's give you an example of... For example, she gives you specific directions on how to get from one cemetery to another, as if you were on a driving tour of the county, okay?
Yeah. And usually she starts in Marietta,
yeah.
But...
Yeah, she goes off in a couple different branches with Marietta being the center point. So, for example, on one particular burying ground, this is the McKinney family burying ground, and it's, where is it? Campbellton. It's in...
by Austell.
Austell area, okay.
You read it and I'll tell you.
Here's her directions. On Old Campbellton Road, at Second Railway Crossing, west of the station in Austell. Is there still a station in Austell? I don't know.
You were in Austell more recently than I was.
Follow the road along the railroad for about a mile. We may have to trespass on railroad property, but I have a connection. I can get us out of railroad jail. Turn right on Old Campbellton Road and proceed 0.5 miles. Burying ground on the Huff, formerly the McKinney place. I'm sure it's still the Huff place.
Well,
right?
I like it's on the Huff, capital H.
Yes, it's on the Huff.
On the Huff.
On the Huff property, formerly the McKinney place, is to the left of the road across a cotton field. So as long as we can find the cotton field across from the McKinney place,
we're good to go.
Golden. But those are the kind of things. It's sometimes it talks about the beautiful ivy growing on the ground, and follow that to the left, and there's a fork in the road, and go right, and it's like.
So we have a backup in case we have an issue with these directions from 90 years ago. No.
Called
No,
GPS?
we have a second. No, that's our third.
Oh, okay.
The second backup is the 1980s cemetery listings that the county had made.
Okay.
So that's 40 years old. I'm not going to admit that, but yeah.
Still, I think it'll be really interesting to see how the places have changed compared to her descriptions of the cemeteries. Some of them may be gone completely if we go find some that were smaller at this point.
Yeah.
Some of them, like you were mentioning, Mount Bethel. There's not very many names in here.
Oh, not Mount Bethel.
Oh,
Mountain View.
Mountain View. Sorry, Mountain View.
Mount Bethel is one, though.
Okay, so sorry. Mountain View there weren't a huge number of names in
it's like 20
here.
names, if that.
But now it's massive,
Packed.
right? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see the difference and compare and contrast and just take a look at how important her work was in 1935 and how we can still apply it to today, even though times have changed.
So what we'll do is we're going to skip the first few cemeteries that she does because they're this one, St. James and Mountain View. We're going to start at Collins Springs. We obviously cannot talk about all the people that are buried in some of these cemeteries. It just won't happen.
Just going to handpick a few.
Hopefully we can find them, but also kind of the origins of that cemetery. Why is it like Collins Springs? Why is it called that?
Right.
So for us, we're going to finally get the chance to really explore Cobb County.
Yes. We don't know, you know, we do save, preserve all of Cobb County history, especially, and even in the cities that have their own history museums and archives, sometimes their stuff ends up with us as well. So we're all about the county, the whole county, but we don't often get outside our little bubble of Marietta, and so we're really excited about this.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we decided to start with South Cobb, which meant we were in for a challenge because we don't go to South Cobb very often. And I'm like,
you know me, South Cobb, East Cobb. Yeah, I can do West Cobb and North Cobb.
Yeah,
you can do East Cobb.
I can do East Cobb. Like
South
we got
Cobb,
that down.
Neither of us really know what's going on in South Cobb.
And this book, and we will do it because it's included. We will be going to Roswell because at that time, Roswell, when she first started, was a part of the county.
That's right.
What we will not be doing, because she does state it in the book, but we will do them later, are the African American cemeteries.
Oh yeah, where does she find?
That's pretty early. That's in the beginning.
Yeah,
of
let
her
me see
stuff.
if I can see exactly how she stated it.
Again, as Amy mentioned, her book does not talk about African American history, and she doesn't do the cemeteries, but we will be hitting them maybe in the fall. We'll see how far we get with these in the course of the spring, summer. I don't go to a lot of cemeteries in the summer. Well, it's hot, but some of them aren't in the best shape.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. When you have to get through, like,
I'm not
overgrown, and I have a machete.
Yeah, but I don't like snakes.
Same.
And you don't like other critters.
No, I don't.
I know you don't.
Records have been taken.
Turn around for
Okay, so this is one thing that I appreciate that she included this in the book and description, even though I wish she had taken the time to include these, what she calls Negro citizens, in her list. I really wish she had, but she says, records have been taken only from the cemeteries in which white citizens are buried. In the Citizens Cemetery in Marietta, where we are right now, there are a number of Negro citizens buried, and in this case, the records of the entire cemetery are given. So she does include them in this cemetery.
Not all of them.
Not all of them? Wow. The records in the Confederate Cemetery and the National Cemetery are not given here, as practically none of the soldiers buried in these cemeteries ever resided in the county. So that's a good point, too. We're not going to go to the Confederate Cemetery nor the National Cemetery, but we did cover the National Cemetery a couple weeks ago.
January.
Months
Be like
ago.
Weeks ago, whatever.
We're not pre-recording this at all.
Also, it's really later in the afternoon when we normally film these.
Weeks,
so
months, years, whenever.
It'll be the day before we know it.
Yes.
So okay.
One thing you can remember is I'm wearing my fabulous heart-shaped sunglasses because it may or may not be in the month of the hearts. Just saying.
It's because you heart Women's History Month. I
totally
get
That's it. I heart Women's History Month. Boom.
Yep.
Good one. I like that. Good save.
I got my green one
Good
for because it's also St. Patrick's Day month too.
Oh yeah, it is.
All right, so you guys can leave any comments or questions. One of us will be watching with you, or have watched with you.
Yes.
If I realized we made a mistake, well, I'm not going to admit to it. But we will be back next week. Should be live.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I don't know where we'll be.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out. Oh, but we should say, did you mention that how we're going to do it every day? Like we're going to hop to a couple of, we'll go on and off of live, right?
No, some of them.
I don't know what we're doing. I'm just here for the ride. What are we doing?
We will be recording them. So that we have no weeks off.
Okay.
So you'll probably see them in end of spring, beginning of summer. so that also we'll have a chance to, you know, do things like, I don't know, exhibits.
Nah.
Collections were.
Nah. That stuff can wait.
But you will know. I mean, we will let you know. If we decide, we might do one where it's a multi-stop thing, but we'll have that planned out ahead of time. But this week we just wanted to highlight Sarah and her importance for our work and for women's history in Marietta. So,
absolutely.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.